I have a tough job today because I have to introduce the man who probably needs no introduction, as corny as that may sound. But I'll bet many of us on the call today thought that running a networking group was probably a pretty easy task. And I think in large measure it has been for David. It's reasonably so, but certainly the events of recently have made us all and thrown us all for a loop. And but David has somehow managed to pick up the skills of running a virtual networking group, uh, just like water rolling off a duck's back. He's done it efficiently and made it interesting uh, for for himself and for all of us. So for that, we certainly appreciate it. I will go through a little bit of his bio in case you haven't read it. Um, so David is known worldwide as the Vision Warrior. He has a unique vision and he has dedicated his life to changing the world one dream at a time by helping aspiring leaders discover, clarify, and progress towards their dream vision. You remember we went through the visioning process to try to clarify what our unique dream vision is for ourselves in our business. He's the creator of the Vision Challenge, the host of one of the fastest growing podcasts, Warrior versus Zombie, and the author of soon to be bestseller. We're all waiting, David, so we can buy our copies. The Vision Warrior: Survive and Thrive in the Zombie Apocalypse. And I think I won't read any more of it, and I will turn things over to our leader, David Roberts. Everybody, give him a big round of applause.
Yeah, I can see. I'm now gonna go to share the screen. So thank you, Randy. That was absolutely awesome. You did a good job. Thank you, and I appreciate you and your continued support and leadership in this group.
That's what I do.
All right, I'm gonna share the screen here, and we're gonna do this, and hopefully everything will go without a hitch. There we go. And let's go to full screen. So the topic today is staying connected and thrive. And one of the things that you often do when you do a talk, do a presentation, do a podcast, all these things that we do is one of the things is your audience wants to understand your credentials, what qualifies you to do this thing. I'm going to do that kind of telling you some of my story. Some of you heard bits and pieces, some of you heard more than others. Some of you heard the ones about the zombie, and one of the things you're going to hear me talking about is your warrior and your zombie, and that's kind of the root of the podcast that I started called Warrior versus Zombie. But I want to talk to you a little bit about my story and share with you some things that might, well, I believe totally relate to this, and talk to you about some of the things I've learned in my journey from 2005 to today. For those who don't know, in 2005, I was kind of at the top of my game in the corporate world, had a 7-digit income, lived in a large house, had all the things that people would say, okay, yeah, that's all success and everything else. And reached a point where I said, yeah, I can see that as I go forward here, I have 4 of my 5 kids still at home. One of my kids had gone off to college, and just a whole number of things converged to make me realize that I needed to retire. I just needed to do something different. This was 15 years ago now. And at that point I said, I want to, it's not just about making money. I want to make a difference. And so I made that decision. You say, okay, that's very noble. That's whatever. Sounds good. Honestly, I didn't necessarily know. One of the admissions I'll make to you right now is I really didn't know what making a difference meant. I mean, I look back now and I kind of understand more about that, but it's been a journey. It's been a process. And it hasn't gone without a hitch. And so that's kind of how the journey started. I got into that a couple of years. I told a number of times that I got 6 months into it. I thought making a difference was going to be hanging out with my kids all the time and my family and playing golf with my friends and doing fun stuff, right? I mean, that's kind of what I envisioned. And it didn't take very long, probably about a few months. And pretty soon my kids wondered if I had any other friends because they didn't want me hanging around all the time. And then my friends said, "Hey, we got jobs, we can't play golf every day." And I realized I wasn't going on a pro tour, so I couldn't make a career or whatever out of that. And so things started to get a little claustrophobic or whatever. And I also began to kind of see a little bit at that time that the economy was not doing okay, even though everything that I had on paper actually looked great. And I was able to, quote, do this, right? And in 2007, I actually came to a place where I had the opportunity to consider going to another corporate job. Now, remember, I decided in 2005 that it wasn't about that, and I kind of decided, but my inner zombie, if you will, and I won't go into the whole story on the zombie that occurred in 2005, but my inner zombie was saying, okay, maybe you need to go back. Maybe you need to go back and recover that. And I had an opportunity that presented itself. I had almost a $500,000 signing bonus on the table, and another 7-digit annual income, and all these things that I was toying with. And the day before I signed the agreement to do that, my kids' school and church, the pastor and the board came to me and said, "We're having trouble. The things aren't working out. The businesses of aspect of the church and the school is going down. We need help. Would you consider coming on board and taking that over?" So here I'm looking at a ministry opportunity, and I'm looking at the opportunity to get back to doing what I was doing before I'd retired in 2005. And the short story is I chose the latter. I actually chose moving to ministry, took over school. We started turning things around. And then 2008, 2009 hit. We all know from one angle or another what happened there. And at that point, and from 2008 to 2009, I lost several $1,000,000. I had made some mistakes. I was embarrassed by the mistakes. I had done some things. It impacted a lot of people, but it was quite different then than it is now. Because in 2008, it was kind of a financial markets. There were some things that were done. There was people to blame. Some people were affected. Some people were not. So anyway, I went through that. And so literally everything changed. I lost a lot of things that you would think that I had before. And then I finally realized I had to figure out what making a difference really meant to me. And so the thing I can tell you on the next slide is disconnection is lonely. In 2008 and 2009, even though I was working in ministry and had a lot of people around me and stuff like that, the things that I was going through and the things that you may be going through in COVID-19, or somebody may be going through, maybe you're doing just fine, is that when you can't connect, it's very lonely. And so when I left my role in 2011, what happened was this headwind, this financial struggle was real struggle. If you can imagine in a Christian school, and those who work with nonprofits or places where, the economy can have an immediate impact, or a church, you have to worry about the money coming in, because the people that are providing those donations, that additional tuition, that kind of stuff, they don't have the money. So it created a huge problem in that world. And I wasn't in total control, but the senior pastor, the person that was my boss, if you will, said, this is really too hard. We need to kind of coast. This isn't going to work. Long story short, we agreed to disagree. I said, well, if we're not going to grow this, number one, we're going to go out of business. But even if we survive this, we're going to go out of business, which is a message that I want to lead. A learning that I had here is even when things are, how you come out of COVID-19, how you come out of this time is going to determine not only what happens right when you come out, but it can have an impact on what will happen in your life 5, 10, 20 years from now. So again, staying connected to a number of things that I'm going to talk about, but being disconnected, not knowing if anything were, not really having a clear vision of what I wanted to do, not really having real clarity on why even I was on the planet other than to be a dad and to do the jobs that I had been given and make money. I really didn't know. So, and when I stepped out of the role of ministry, I had some people around me, so it wasn't quite as lonely. And I had some people, and even going through some of the stuff that I went through with all the financial challenges and everything else, as soon as I stepped out of that role, that network disappeared. Now you say that's crazy. You know, you were running a school, you had all this stuff, you had this corporate, but my corporate network at that point in time, I remember I retired in 2005. This was roughly 2010, so it's 5 years old, right? So trying to connect with those people, yeah, we were still friends, that kind of stuff. But where I was and where they were two different places. So it was a very hard thing. The other thing is in 2010, after that occurred, it was interesting because when I moved in, I got everything under control. So everybody in my network at that point said, okay, he doesn't need anything. So it was like, you know, when I'm not serving and I'm not, whether it's financially or putting my time into something, all of a sudden I didn't have the network that I thought I had. I didn't have the support. I didn't have the people there that I thought were beside me in the trenches that would be with me and going through that. So one of the things I realized then is the importance, and Randy did a great job. Actually, it was a great segue in terms of that. I didn't realize the importance of not only the size, but the diversity of my network. And I didn't understand the importance of why I and other people needed to be in a network at that point in time. So staying connected is not only going to help you, and I know that those that are on this Zoom call today and on this presentation are here because you are trying to stay connected and trying to at least get through it. But I would suggest that you don't want to just survive COVID-19. You want to thrive, and not thrive just now, but beyond. And I can tell you with my experience in 2008 versus today, it's even more possible today because we have Zoom, we have tools. The people that are in Richardson Plano Networkers, I mean, I have a massive network, and I look at all the virtual as well as, I mean, I have, you know, probably 30,000 people that I can reach to in one form or another, obviously varying degrees of relationship and that kind of, and we have 1,500 people in Richardson Plano Networkers, and we really entertain when we're getting together each week, probably 70 people that are clearly there. I've already reached out to a number of people to help other people and do those kinds of things. So that's one of the things that's different in 2020 versus 2008. And also because this COVID-19 thing, the thing that we're dealing with here, it's affecting everybody. I mean, there's nobody. It's where the financial crisis, maybe depending on where you were, what investments you made, real estate, stock, maybe it didn't matter. Obviously, there's been a huge hit in the financial market, both down and up, and it's all over the place. But when it comes to the disconnection, the loneliness, being sent to your room, so to speak, that's something that's affecting virtually everybody. And the people that it's not affecting, they're being affected in different ways. And they're even isolated because they're exposed to other people. So we can feel like today that we're all in this together, okay? Which I didn't get that feeling in 2008. Maybe it was there, maybe other people were enjoying it, but my network sucked. I mean, I didn't have the network. A network is like having a bank account, as I've taught a number of times to use. You're building your network, you need to view it as it's something that I invest in. If you just go to a network when you need something, it's like going to a bank account that's empty. You can't get what you need out of it. So today, I serve, and I say that intentionally. And today, you serve a network. You serve a network. And that service, that input that you're giving, basically is there to give you a return on your investment, if that makes sense. Bottom line is I still do this daily. Randy says I've learned how to do it virtually. You know what? there's very few things more important to me than continuing to serve you. You guys have invested in me. You've given me your most precious asset, and I appreciate that. So the next thing I'm going to share with you is, as you're going through this, as you're connecting, as you're part of this, it doesn't matter whether you're virtual or online, be authentic. Now that means that, we hear that a lot, but what does that mean? One of the things I'm finding working with some of my clients and friends and just people that I'm trying to help at this point is you still haven't answered the question that I had to answer in 2008 and 9 when it happened to me. And part of why I'm doing this now, I discovered my purpose was that I didn't know what it meant to make a difference. I didn't know why I was here. Sounds funny because I was 50 years old. It sounds funny that I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I didn't. Okay, so the thing is, at this point, you got to be authentic to what? Being authentic means you're authentic to your identity, who you are. And as those who've gone through the vision discovery process or anything else, you know that really has two components. One is why you're here. There's a unique reason why you're here. How you choose to take that why forward can be your cause. You can implement that in any various number of causes, but knowing basically why you're here, and then knowing how you can provide value. One of my great friends, the guy who introduced me, Randy Stablich, says, I've been doing this chain turnaround. I'm not necessarily, people aren't necessarily paying for it, but there's a value there that we all have. You can look at every aspect of your life, whether it's a mom or a dad or an employee or a friend, and there's certain things that people always come to you for. So know what that is. Know your value. Once you know why you're here, why God or the universe put you on the planet. This is Good Friday, so I'm going to say God, why God put you on the planet. Then the other thing is you need to know what value that you can provide. That value you can monetize and fund your journey, but the point is your identity is tied up in those things. So you've got to be authentic to that. That's one of the things I learned. And the first thing I learned is I got to figure out what that is. The second thing is I learned on my journey was, and the disruption that it caused me was that it became a catalyst for me discovering that. So the first thing the thing I'll say at the end of this slide is basically look in the mirror and hopefully see your warrior. Your warrior is the person that's moving forward in your purpose, doing what it is that you are meant to do, providing the value with your own intention. Okay, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But the next thing that helped me immensely in 2008 and get out of my downward spiral really was I didn't know how to solve all the problems that I had. I was dealing with a lot of stuff, and it became a siren's call, if you will, to my zombie. All of a sudden, my inner zombie was saying, okay, go back to your old, get back in, do what you got to do, as opposed to go forward. And I needed to look in the mirror and say, okay, I need to get out of that. I need to, know who I am. But then I need to turn my focus back away from me, even though I had a lot of problems at the time, and help others. Life is a team sport. I'm not just here to encourage you. You're here and you're encouraging me. This is part of what it's about, is we're all in it together. It's a current theme, but it's not just for COVID-19. We're really all in it together. And it's not just about comforting us in our sorrow for the loss, but it's also we're in this together. We need to look for new opportunities to serve each other or serve other people in our community. And if you do that, I can guarantee you that action alone will improve and allow you to thrive, not only in this time, but also beyond. So you've got to basically serve and get into your network. And then when I was at my lowest point, I want to come back to 2011, at my lowest point where I had lost, already lost the money, I did it and I kept with it and I kept plowing forward, but because I felt that I needed to keep the ministry going and the things going, and I had a reason, a value that I was providing. And then all of a sudden I came to this agree to disagree. Okay, I'm now out of that. I was at my lowest point. I didn't even know. I mean, I experienced things that some of you probably have experienced in terms of I walked out, I might have shared, I think I shared this before, as I walked out and saw that my cars were gone. Okay. I actually wasn't sure at times at a point there how I was going to pay the rent. I needed my network and other things to do that. But yet, even in spite of that, somebody came to me, and asked for help. They were having some issues with financial. And guess who was also having issues with financial? Me. They had issues with financial. They were having some family issues associated with that. And they wanted to have a cup of coffee and they needed some help. And all of a sudden, a miracle occurred. I started talking to that person. I was helping them with their challenges and helping them through it. And at the end, I could feel like they did. And by doing that with them and helping them connect the dots, having them refocus on not trying to go with their zombie, but going forward with their warrior, I learned something that was amazing that kept me going, was that in helping others, I was helping myself. So I found something. So there's my identity: helping people inspire, helping people that aren't inspired be inspired, helping people to begin to move forward in their purpose became my realization that that was my unique reason. The value of my ability to help them connect the dots and maybe solve some problems that they weren't able to solve on their own, again, became part of what I did. And that started my whole journey to not only building networks, but also what I do with my Vision Warriors. So the next thing I'll say that I learned was being and staying committed. You say staying committed sounds different. Okay, so we're not trying to go back, we're trying to go forward. It says those who really thrive during this time see that their challenges aren't a reason to stop or get off your bridge from the future or get off the track that you're on, but in fact, they're not in the way, those things. COVID-19 isn't in our way. COVID-19 is on our way. COVID-19 is part of our story now. This is part of our story. And we look back as we're moving towards the future that we intend, our destiny that we intend to have. We can look at this and say it was on the way, it wasn't in the way. You'll have to figure out ways around it or through it, but that's one of the keys. So what you do now, either temporarily, and we were talking about this before we started today, I think with Patricia and some others as I talked about, is that the things that we're going to change right now some of these things are going to be not temporary, and they're not going to be things that we just are going to do to get through this. They're going to be things that are going to change the way we look at that. So whether it's stay committed to the basics. Jokingly, somebody said, put the mask on so you stop eating. The thing is, you got to stay committed to your health. You got to stay committed to your relationships. You got to stay committed to your wealth, the path that you're on, the growth, the learning. There's all kinds of opportunities. And even during that time in 2008, and it's true today, I learned that if I couldn't do anything else, I could work out. If I couldn't do anything else, I could read a book. If I couldn't do anything else, I could do something to improve my diet or health. If I couldn't do anything else, I could spend some time with somebody I love. If I couldn't do anything else, I could help my network or the people there. See, so that's the message there. That's another thing that I learned. The next thing I learned is to be creative. One of the things that's amazing about this time, the huge opportunity that I don't think most people realize is, where your zombie thrives? Your zombie thrives within your comfort zone. That's where that's the habits. That's the 95% of your thoughts that you don't even think about and you keep doing, whether it's your health, your zombie is there. And so now everything's changed for everybody, right? We've all had these massive changes. And so we're not in our comfort zone. So here's an opportunity. If you're not in your comfort zone and you can dial back the stress, then you can go forward and be creative. Ricky Jean is a good example. He's doing all kinds of things to be creative, to follow his singer-songwriter and doing those kinds of things. And all I can tell you is this is the time. This is the time to do those things that your normal routine did, the 95% of your thoughts and the things you do didn't provide the opportunity to do that. And I found that there. I didn't have anything else to do, so I had to think of different things and try to pursue that. So the comfort zone for most people right now is pretty hard to find, right? So you can find people that you can help that are outside their comfort zone. So whether it's temporarily or permanently, no one is there. Embrace your zone. You really have two choices here. There's only two choices going through COVID-19 and when I went through 2008. One was to embrace my zombie, try to go back to where I was or hang on to what I had, or embrace my warrior, which was how do I move forward? And so going through and thriving right now and thriving from beyond is what is it? What is it that I can be creative? What thing new can I do? And the next is so there are new opportunities all around us right now. I know I've had conversations with some of you. All of these changes, all these things that aren't working, we're seeing different things unfold. Zoom just happens to be one of them, is all of a sudden doing this working from home and networking from home and communicating with our teams is going to be part of the way of life. Learning from home, the education part of it. You know, if you look at 2008, I want you to realize something. In 2008, I want to tell you the top 5 companies by value were. They were Exxon, GE, Microsoft, AT&T, and Procter & Gamble. That was 2008. 10 years after 2008, when that crash occurred, when everything started to go, guess who the top 5 companies were in 2018, 10 years later? Number 1, Apple. Number 2, Google. Number 3, Microsoft was still in the equation. Number 4, Amazon. And number 5, Facebook. Those are the top 5 companies in terms of market value in 2018. So a lot changed. Did you notice? The thing is, a lot of opportunities. Companies like Uber, companies like Lyft and Uber and Netflix actually took on a whole different role. They reformed, they merged, they reinvented themselves, they did some things. The landscape of a lot of industries, Airbnb, those all change. There's tons of opportunities. The reason I use this diffusion of innovations curve is there are opportunities out there that have some penetration. All of a sudden you're becoming aware of them, but they're not even in the early majority, late majority, or whatever. They're in the innovators and early adopter stage. Not even 1% penetration. One of them I'm looking at right now is virtual reality and augmented reality and how that plays into things like education and a number of different things. So and in your world, in the music and entertainment world, you know, people are doing these in-home concerts. Is there a way that can be done better? Is there a way to deliver that better? There's people on this networking call on their phones, things that we don't think about anything about doing on our cell phones. But if you look at when Mark Zuckerberg bought a virtual reality company, he's now saying this is the phones isn't going to be the platform of the future. We're going to be more immersed. You know, this 2D thing is getting us through, but is that going to be the future? Okay, is there something there? So maybe you can expend a little bandwidth at this point in time to not only encourage you and engage your creative juices, but also keep you moving forward. So really double lock your zombies cage. Double lock that zombie that's trying to pull you back and say, okay, I gotta keep doing what I was doing as soon as this is over. You know, you may get to do some of that, but maybe it's a time to think about doing it better. Maybe there's new opportunities. Maybe there's something out there that you thought, hey, I want to look into that. Maybe somebody in the network group is doing something that you didn't understand and it's new. And you just have a one-on-one with them, hear about it. think about some things. Think about possibilities. That's what I'm always talking about. The next one is focus. So, I talked about a lot of stuff, but daily focus on the opportunities to fulfill your life purpose and use the unique value that you've been given is an important thing that you can do during this time. Focus on that. The world's going to change. The quarantine combined with your belief in yourself will really enable you to thrive, and more importantly, not only during COVID-19, but beyond. And when you realize one thing, when you start having doubt, when you get into this out of your comfort zone thought process and you start having doubts and fears about that, guess who's talking to you? It's your zombie. It's the person that's trying to pull you back into the habits of your history versus your destiny that you want to create with your warrior. And so just tell the zombie to shut up and move on. Sorry, went back with one more. So the thing I'm going to leave you with, and here's the 7 key points that I've made or I pulled out of what I just talked about. First of all, it's a journey. Every day, good or bad, is part of the journey. Every day is precious. Every moment is precious. You hear me say this over and over again. So again, look in the mirror. Understand whether you're seeing the warrior or the zombie. Take stock of where you are. Look at your health, your wealth, all these things. Be realistic. It's hard to get from somewhere you want to go if you don't know where you are. Accept your personal reality has changed. You know, your personality has led you to your current personal reality, but in the last few weeks, all of our personal realities have changed. So accept that and then move forward. The next one is remember why you're on the planet. Remember why you're here. Imagine new possibilities. Adapt. Adapt is another word for taking bold action. There's lots of white space. That's why I was talking about the new opportunities. There's all kinds of things that either people haven't thought about. It doesn't mean you come up with a new widget necessarily, but there's white space. There's people moving. You can look and see who's moving into that white space, what's going on. Maybe there's an opportunity there. This is a way to thrive, not only now, but going into it. Have faith. Again, don't let that zombie, have faith. Your warriors, knows, and start moving now. Don't let that procrastinator thing let you put it off, because this is an opportunity. Everything in life brings challenge and opportunity. You can view this as a challenge and you can view it as an opportunity, and they're both true. It's really in how you view it. And then the last thing I'll say, which I've said many times, I learned this from one of our speakers a while back, and that is always be grateful. I wake up every morning before I get out of bed, and I'm thankful. I go through in my mind all the things I'm thankful for. Give, like I said, find people to help, find ways to give, find ways to contribute, find ways to make other people's world better, even if it's just, encouraging them on the phone, and then continually grow in your relationships, your spiritual life, your intellect, anything that you can, your education. So that's kind of what I have there. I want to leave you. I've ended with this before, and it's one of my favorite poems, but I'm going to read it to you because it really impacts me. It's called The Man in the Glass. It's from 1934, Peter Dale Winbrow. It says, when you get what you want and you struggle for self, world makes you king for a day. Just go in the mirror and look at yourself. See what that man has to say. For it isn't your father or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellows whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. He's a fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end, and you passed your most difficult and dangerous test if you man in your glass as your friend. You may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartache and tears if you cheated man in the glass. Now's the time, guys. Now's the time. I'm going to stop sharing. Now's the time for you to embrace your zombie. Be excited about the things that are in front of us, because with great challenge comes great opportunity. I used to do large multi-billion-dollar outsourcing things, and I can tell you, I sat down, I can't tell you the thousands of people, meetings that I've been where people say, okay, there's all kinds of opportunities, and all those that stared back at the door that closed and didn't look forward to the door that opened, they didn't thrive, at least immediately going forward. With the people that saw it, saw the change, figured out how to take advantage of it for themselves and keep moving on their path, all of them, it represented great opportunity. So with that, I'm going to unmute everybody, and I want to thank you for your attention. And I love you guys, and God bless.